A lot of people, including myself, were questioning what place did Charles have in this lightweight division. He was taking on Rafael Fiziev originally, someone else with a lot of power and is mainly a striker. So coming off the knockout loss against Ilia Topuria just like maybe 3-ish months ago, you know, and then out of nowhere, Rafael had to pull out and we got Mateus Gamera. I was nervous in this matchup for Charles because, and facing guys like, an Islam or even an Arman, he didn't really mind people taking top control. And sometimes I would put him down in the rounds and make it just an impossible fight to win unless he got a finish in some scenarios. So this is also one of the best wrestlers in the division. Like as far as in like, open mat takedowns that could take you down without needing the cage or anything. Mateus was that guy, but man, Charles dominated him with, wrestling as well, like just offensively grappling him and pretty much getting an easy submission, pressuring him behind the black line, using those teeps, the old school Charles high guard, and, just the same way he usually fights. And it worked perfectly. We saw some of the improvements, or the bigger improvements, his wrestling, especially in that Chandler rematch, where he was very good with the takedowns and offensive wrestling, which is a great part of the game that's been added to Charles now, which makes him even more dangerous because of the submission threat he already has just off his back. So if he's able to have really high level wrestling that could take anybody down at any time, man, very, very dangerous for this division. And I believe he still has a road back to the title or another title shot, but he can't lose again, obviously. If he loses another one, I don't really think he'll get like another title shot. If he goes and beats Max Holloway, because that's who he did call out, if he goes and does that, I mean, how can you deny him? Depends who's the champ, of course. Maybe if Ilya is still champ at that time, who knows? But this division will move. It moves really quick. You never know. Like one day, Ilya was the featherweight champ. Next one, he's vacating, moving up, trying to fight for the title. So it's like, division does not wait for anybody. So we just got to wait and see. Some of the rumors are speculating that Ilia Topuria will now be taking on Paddy Pimblett at some point, I believe next year, for one of the first cards or first pay-per-view that's going to be on the new Paramount deal, So I'm actually excited to see how that works out, though, as far as in the Paramount deal. Like, do you just subscribe to something for like $10, $12 a month and, you get access to all the pay-per-views and the fight nights? That'll be fantastic, not going to lie. But, we're just going to wait and see how that works out, because like this big White House card, are they going to try to charge money for it? Because it's a bigger event than an average pay-per-view? Are they going to charge an International Fight Week? These are the kind of questions I have about that deal, so they'll get answered soon enough. Yeah, but in these gameplays, I'm pretty much going to try to utilize mostly what Charles would do, from fighting off my back if I have to, offensively wrestling, pressuring, and using the teeps, especially to the body, to try to wear down that stamina, make it even easier to submit my opponent and just, brutalize them on the ground and get effortless takedowns. Yeah, so it's on Keith's overthrown, so we're just taking our time because he's just trying to get me to come close to throw a big combo. So, we're using the footsies, going in and out a little bit, using the teeps to the body when we can to just really break him down. And as you can see with the stamina, his stamina's already getting really low, and it's only round one. He already has a broken nose, a cut. Most of his body health is gone, so we just got to wait and see. And he does quit on the stool, kind of like RDR just did, which is kind of crazy, though. I just watched, well, obviously it was last night, but man, I can't believe RDR kind of just like, in a sense, I gave up. But we did find out now from RDR's official Twitter, he did say he was battling some type of neurovirus. This is the same thing that Alex Pereira had in the first Ankalaev fight. And we saw the rematch when Alex didn't have it. It does affect performance for sure. But it's like, at the end of the day, it's up to you to take on the risk of fighting under such conditions, because nobody would have blamed RDR for pulling out. You know what I mean? So, like, For example, Fluffy, he knew he couldn't do it. He was injured, and I'm not sure exactly what the injury was, but he knew he couldn't perform. And this was a big opportunity he did not want to give up. So he did not take the fight. You know, he pulled out. That's how Brendan Allen came in on short notice. And much respect to Allen, though. He's definitely slept on. I mean, it's someone that wrestled in Paul Craig's guard and beat up Paul Craig. You know, his wrestling is not to be, you know, laughed at. That's why when I do bring up a case for Nurmagomedov possibly being a tough challenge for Khamzat, Brendan Allen, him beating Brendan Allen is definitely impressive, you know, because even though he has a grappling background of his own, you know, Brendan Allen ain't no joke. So I'm just loving how the middleweight division went from being lackluster and kind of thin, like similar to heavyweight, and now it's just thriving with more talent. You know, like RDR popped on the scene. You got Amanov, or Amavov, I mean. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name exactly. You got Kyle that was lighting everything up. And just now we got a bigger pool of talent. We got Fluffy coming out here dominating. Got Khamzat the champion, you know. Because I'm not sure when exactly he moved up. I think it was like maybe like a year or two ago. He fought like Kamaru Usman a while ago. I'm not sure exactly when, but you know, him being brought to the division as well. I thought Usman was gonna stay at 185, but he ended up going back down 170. But man, and we still even got Robert Whitaker. Izzy still fighting. I mean, middleweight is fantastic right now and definitely has a lot of potential. Not saying it's gonna be like the best division, but it's definitely one of the best ones. Oh, look at that. Right here, we catch him in a beautiful dart stroke right here. Man, it is fun to submit people with Charles, though. That 100 submission offense is nothing to play with. So now we're facing a El Kukui. So this is going to be, his main weapon is going to be the cardio and just the overall durability. You know, we don't have the durability of, you know, our prime Tony, of course. And we don't have the cardio to keep up. So we're going to have to, you know, not go into the fire too much with this Tony, work his body. And, you know, if we do get the opportunity to get him down, we will. We already grappled a lot, so I might strike a little bit more in this fight right here because, man, people either like back out or they just get finished really quick. So, you know, mix it up with some striking, make the video a bit more balanced. But yeah, I see he's trying to be wild with, you know, a lot of these strikes moving forward. But I see he's throwing that, you know, the lead body kick. So what I'm going to do is most of the time I'm just going to be circling to the left. You just circle away from the jab hand and it'll just miss. See, he's being really crazy, kind of like a Tony Ferguson. Using elbows, teeps, Superman punches, just all these different wild strikes to cut the distance. And it's not an orthodox way to do it. He's not using a jab or a feint. You know, so, you know, players like this can be hard, I understand, to beat. But you got to rely on more of your reactionary counters and all that. And it makes these fights significantly, like, you know, easier. You know, I'm basically reacting. I'm not trying to predict too much because if you get into the same thing over and over trying to predict what a random unorthodox opponent is going to do, you're going to find yourself getting hit a lot more than you should. Oh, look at that. He hit us with a guillotine counter. So he goes up to try to get the sub off. We deny. And now we're on the ground. We're going to pass over side control. Did that by holding R1 and flicking over because we had a big short-term stamina lead. So we're able to do that. We deny left right here. We're going to go for it. And unfortunately, we do not get it because his submission defense is very high. So he denies us right here. Gotta be patient. Stamina's a little bit lower, and El Kukui is definitely dangerous off the back, especially with the triangle chokes. So we're gonna take our time passing, trying to recover, you know, our stamina. We're gonna do some fakes and punches to build GA, and watch our GA. See it blinking blue? That means our transition's as fast as it can be. On top of having really good transitions on the ground, we denied twice right here. We're gonna go for the Darce choke. He did back out. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Stay tuned for more content. It's on the way.